Greetings and welcome to the second annual NASA IT Summit. We call this session to order and officially begin our three-day event where our focus is collaboration and innovation. Our theme for this event is Making IT Stellar at NASA. We strive to gather not just an individual IT community to share and exchange ideas. Rather, we seek a holistic approach to achieving the goals of IT. To that end, we welcome our partners in education, diversity, inclusion, workforce strategic planning, people skill building and leadership who have come to share in this experience and contribute toward making this gathering a well-rounded experience for all participants. I am Karen Harper. I work in the office of the agency CIO. Together, Lula Wright from the Office of the CIO at the NASA Shared Service Center and I are the co-chairs for this event. First, a few administrative details. We do ask that you silence your cell phones and keep conversation and extraneous noise to a minimum. These general sessions are being broadcast live and will be available on our NASA OCIO website for later viewing. We encourage everyone to post comments about their experience throughout the summit using Twitter or NASA's BuzzRoom using the hashtag NASAIT. For those who are watching remotely, use these tools to post your questions to the speakers. We will have a moderator who can pose some of the questions from our virtual participants to the speakers if time allows. We also want to give you a heads up that next week you will be receiving a survey via email. It is important for us to get your feedback so we can improve on future NASA IT summits. And finally, all of these sessions are on a first-come basis. Please be on time. If a session room is full, there are 7 other concurrent sessions to choose from and will no doubt have something great to offer.
As we plan for this event, we listened to your feedback from the IT Summit 2010 and made changes based on your comments. Our main goal is to disseminate high-quality information to as many people as possible. To that end, we offer an IT Summit 2011 remote engagement for those of you who could not make it to the summit. We're leveraging the latest in IT to bring this engagement to you. For those of you participating remotely, this is not a static engagement. You can expect to interact with speakers, be actively engaged in interesting conversation, and learn something about the topics that are of interest to you. The IT Summit remote engagement offers 2 opportunities to participate. The first is live streaming. All of our keynote speakers, our featured speakers, the Education Blast-Off, and stellar stars JPL CIO Jim Rinaldi and JSC CIO Larry Sweet will be streamed and broadcast live in conjunction with an online chat forum. The second opportunity is live call. Remote participants can join an online discussion forum and talk with presenters and other participants in conjunction with an online chat forum. These sessions will not be streamed. As a remote participant, you will also be receiving a survey via email. We value your feedback and encourage you to complete the survey. As we continue to leverage the latest in IT, we decided to go green and not print the program book. Instead, an IT Summit 2011 mobile app was created with all the information concerning the sessions, the speakers, and the location. Using the app, you can navigate the information with ease from your Wi-Fi or your 3G or your 4G device. To use Wi-Fi during the summit, please connect to Marriott_conference. The password is CA1F87. Daily updates to the agenda will be posted on the media wall located down the hallway to the right. We appreciate your interest in the NASA IT Summit 2011. The response has been enthusiastic. 1,717 participants have registered to attend here at the Marriott. 200 have registered to attend remotely. Thank you for your interest in the NASA IT Summit. And now I present to you Liz Weber, who will lead us in the national anthem.
Please join me in singing our national anthem. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave? Sounded great.
Thank you. All right. That's nice. Okay. During your registration process, each of you received a Turning Technology audience response card. This card will be used by many of the speakers to engage the audience and gather feedback. Prior to each of the sessions starting, you will be asked to set your response card to a specific channel, therefore we can test it using a NASA trivia question. Okay, what I need you to do, the people that are sitting from here to the left of me, I need you to set your response cards to channel 41. To do that, you press the CH button, the number 4, the number 1, and the CH button again. Channel 41. People that are sitting from here to the right of me, set your channel to channel 51. Press the CH button, 51, CH button again. Okay, I'm going to ask you a question about an interesting bit of NASA trivia and have you answer by pressing the appropriate button on your response card. We'll see the response on this, we'll see the correct answer on the screen as well as the response. Has everyone set their their card to channel either 41 or 51? Okay, the question is, how many Earths can fit into Jupiter's vast sphere? So choose either A, B, C, or D. Okay. Does everyone have their channels set? Thus far, only 178 people have responded. So, okay. Anyone having a problem? Okay. Yes. Yes. The password for the Wi-Fi? Sure. Okay, the password is C as in cat, A as in apple, the number 1, F as in Frank, 87. And to set, okay. C as in cat, A as in apple, the number 1, F as in Frank, 87. Okay, for those of you who have responded, the correct, I'm sorry. Okay, I'm having a little technical difficulty here. Okay, the correct answer is D. All right, thank you for participating, and just remember, at the beginning of each session, you're going to be asked to do the same thing, because a lot of speakers have incorporated a lot of ways to get feedback directly from the audience, and this is the way that we're going to capture that feedback. Thank you very much.
At this time, I have the privilege to introduce our director, Linda Curidan. She is the Chief Information Officer for the National Aeronautics and Space Administration. As NASA CIO, she provides the requisite leadership to transform the management of information technology capabilities and services to support and enable NASA's mission. She ensures that the agency's information resource management strategy is in alignment with NASA's vision, mission, and strategic goals. Accordingly, Linda ensures the development of information resource management strategies, including standards, policies, NASA enterprise architecture, IT security, management, and operations. She has the responsibility, authority, and accountability for ensuring that NASA's information assets are selected, controlled, and evaluated consistent with federal policies, procedures, and legislation. Linda was appointed as the NASA CIO in September 2009. Prior to this appointment, Linda served as the CIO of the NASA Goddard Space Flight Center and led the Information Technology and Communications Directorate. Previously, Linda served in executive positions at the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, Department of Energy, and the Department of Justice. At this time, I would like to invite our NASA CIO to the stage to officially kick off Making IT Stellar at NASA 2011 IT Summit.
Good morning, everybody. Sometimes I always have a hard time listening to my introductions, and I think about something my mother always said. She says, baby, what is a CIO anyway? And I said, I don't know, it has something to do with computers, but I'm not sure, I'll let you know. So I have something to do with computers, and so do you, and that's why you're here. And that's why you're here physically, and those of you who are online in our online experience, that's why you're here. So I want to say welcome. This is our second annual IT Summit, and I hope that this will be a positive and enjoyable learning experience for you. I'm confident that it will be. Over the next 2.5 days, I believe that you'll meet some remarkable people and exchange ideas and information about a wide range of IT topics. Our essential goal is to improve how IT is managed at NASA and to make IT stellar for the wonderful and amazing scientists and engineers that help our planet with NASA's mission. As you know, NASA is situated in 10 or more geographically dispersed centers, and so we don't often get an opportunity to get together like this or interact face-to-face, and it's a good time to see all of you. At this one time of year, we get the opportunity to do that. So while we do live in a socially connected world with more electronic communications, it's still a great value to get together to have the human interaction whenever we can. We've planned the summit with 12 different tracks or thematic areas, so there will be lots to choose from, whether you're an engineer, a manager, an educator, or a visionary. One of the tracks, titled CIO Speaks, I think you'll like that one. I think I will, and so would my mother. A couple of things that I'd like to point out to you. We have a strong educational component this year, including an education blast-off on Wednesday morning for more than 200 high school students who see lively demonstrations, be encouraged to get involved in science, technology, engineering, math, and hopefully get an encouragement to aim their careers toward IT in the area of space exploration. We'll also have a stronger emphasis this year on open government transparency, highlighting the ways transparency, participation, and collaboration are being done by NASA. I want to take the time out now to thank many of the people who made this summit possible. The two co-chairs of the summit, Karen Harper and Lula Wright, have devoted so much time and thought and energy to pulling all the strands of this event together. So I want to pause and say thank you for all you've done. I'd like to thank the members of the IT Steering Committee who've joined them, and they represent people from every single NASA center. I want to thank them for their hard work in making this possible. So thanks, please, to the staff planners. I'd like to thank NASA Administrator Charlie Bolden, Deputy Administrator Lori Garver, and the NASA CIO community here who've made available the resources, the people, the power, the logistical and moral support to make an event of this scale possible. So thank you to them. And finally, there have been scores of sponsors and partners in industry that have helped make this possible from a support perspective and also from a technical perspective. I'd like to acknowledge Lockheed Martin and their technical assistance with having technicians come and make a lot of the technology possible here too. So thank you. So, in answering my mother's question, baby, what does a CIO do? And it has something to do with IT, information technology. And when we think about the value that IT has, not just to NASA, but to us as individuals and how we run our lives on a day-to-day basis, it's vast and it's tremendous. And it often seems to me that the more perplexing and interesting question about IT is how we talk about it in the practical world of business and government. That is, people often focus on the cost of IT to an organization, but tend not to think about the value that it has to an organization. If you're a CIO, or if you're working in the world of IT, you're bound to wonder, why does this happen? Why is this so? And how can we change the conversation? Change the conversation to not focus on, well, how much does this cost us, to what is the value of this? This is a crass example, but I use this to illustrate this a lot. If we were in a world where we did not have outdoor plumbing, right? We don't argue about the value of going to an outhouse versus going to the bathroom right down the hall. We don't think about it. Now we just don't think about it. We don't look at it in terms of cost. There's a lot of value to us in not having to get up in the middle of the night and risk our lives and trip over all kinds of things out there and animals in order to go to the bathroom. We don't think about it. And a lot of times we don't think about IT in that way too. We think about the conveniences, the value, and the things that we take for granted. So the question, I think, is more prominent today when we think about the economic conditions that we're in. Both the economy at large and within the federal government, we're challenged to try to get the cost of running government down. So you're bound to have to ask, how much does this cost? But then sometimes you can't afford to not do this. You can't afford the value of being cheap or the value of not being, or the value of being not as cost effective as you need to be. Now, when we explain the value of IT to our partners, whether it's OMB or the CEO or our board of directors or stakeholders, we have to make sure that we think about their perspectives when we talk about IT. In part, our task is made more difficult because IT and its related technologies in communication, management, and production have been so extraordinarily successful. On a macro level, it's become more like the very air we breathe. Nothing happens without it. Yet it's the kind of capability that's like an electrical current. It powers everything that we do, and it powers all of our devices. Do you ever hear anybody ask the question, what do we really get from all this electricity? What's the return on investment of an electrical power generator? Of course they don't ask those questions. That's because we all understand the value of electricity and its universal factor of production, whether or not we're talking goods, services, media, or government. I would argue that IT is now in the same category. Without sophisticated computers and computer skills, we can get very little accomplished. So when something is so universally useful and necessary, it becomes difficult to think of the return on investment in that way. Now, why is IT unusual? Well, there are special factors within the practical side of IT that help explain why coming up with a determination of value can be so tricky. For one thing, so much depends on people and leadership. As one person wrote, IT is often the marriage of people, processes, and technology where value is either created or destroyed. If you bring in an IT solution, you've got the right people with the right skills and the right motivation. It may work wonderfully, but without this marriage of these ingredients, your IT innovation may never pay off as much as you had expected. Take the IT innovation of the telephone. When the telephone was created in the early 1900s, around 1910, people said, well, what is the value of this? This is nothing but a scientific toy, a new, bright, shiny thing that can't help anybody. And they couldn't see how it was this costly new gizmo would be better than a telegraph. And we could now talk to somebody in China. A man can talk to his girlfriend in China and his girlfriend in Boston at the same time. So why have a telephone, right? But yet, think of what the world would be like without the telephone. We didn't have a critical design review to come up with the requirements of the telephone and then spend 18 months producing it and then launching it on time, on budget, and within scope. We didn't do that. It just happened. It happened, and it changed not only how we did things, how we did our banking, how we ran government, it changed the world. And yet this IT innovation still today would be questioned by a lot about the value of that kind of activity. So we have to look for it not just as value, but what does it do for the world? What does it do for our organization? How do we get that magnificent scale and innovation from that thing that we're working on? In addition to looking at IT initiatives, 1910 it was a phone, but today we have many IT initiatives going on. And we look at factors outside of the organization and the value that is possible. Whether or not the CEO sees IT as playing a role in the advancement of organization, we do see IT as a change agent with many transformational possibilities. Whether IT plans are made by enthusiastic specialists like all of you, or whether or not it's fully integrated in the business planning of the organization. And finally, whether or not the CIO is seen as a relevant, valuable player in making those decisions for an organization. Another reason why the value of IT is hard to quantify, purchasing hardware and software often involve big expenditures up front. But you may not be able to see the value of that spend until years down the line. Another reason why the payoff for innovation is hard is that the value may be subtle and hard to pin down, like the outhouse relative to indoor plumbing, or the telephone relative to being able to communicate with your girlfriend in China and Boston at the same time, or be able to change how the government does business. Very often, dealing with social media, the biggest result that we see is to be able to bring people together who wouldn't ordinarily be able to come together and collaborate and communicate. If there are people at Kennedy Space Center, Houston, and JPL, they'll be able to collaborate better. How do you measure in dollars and cents the value of that collaboration? At the same time, IT adds many contributions in many different ways to an organization. New relationships are formed between customers and suppliers, and that's good because sometimes we're the customer and the supplier at the same time. We're able to capture new knowledge. We have new ways to be productive and increase the flexibility and capability of our knowledge workers. And then finally, we develop new ways to design things within our organization. So what does this all mean? Because determining and explaining the value of IT to our stakeholders, and that includes the President, Congress, and the public, it's so complex. And we in the community have to step up to that complex game, and we have to win. That may mean where it's possible, we have to measure the value we add more precisely than before. This may mean using chargeback accounting systems to measure the costs, control costs, and eliminate waste, and to encourage managers to become knowledgeable consumers of IT equipment and services. The science of IT is measurable in quantities like that and metrics like that. But what about the art of technology? How do we measure that? How do we measure beauty, truth, love, grace? How do we measure customers' satisfaction with us? How they love what they get? How do we measure, did we actually do what they wanted us to do? Did we bring truth to their problems? And did we do it with elegance and grace and cost effectively? How do we measure that? What metrics are there for that? One case in point, in the Office of the CIO, we're in the midst of a major transformation called the IT Infrastructure Integration Program, or I3P for short. One of the major purposes of I3P is to get a better handle on where and how we add value in the IT organization for NASA. And when it's all done, this agency-wide effort will better enable the NASA mission, improve security, and gain effectiveness. So we can put measurements in place to measure how well we do, but at the end of the day, we have to bring truth, beauty, and grace to our stakeholders and deliver the value that they want. So as I conclude my remarks this morning, I want to thank everybody who contributed to having this summit be a great, great event. The people here are very passionate about IT, and I do want to acknowledge several of them this morning, several more of them this morning. Some of them I haven't seen yet, and I hope I don't embarrass somebody for not being here, but I'd like you to stand up if you can. Our mission directorate CIOs, if it weren't for the mission, there's no need for IT. So our mission directorate CIOs are Beverly Hamilton, if she could stand up. There you are, Joe Bredekamp, Science Mission Directorate. There's Joe over there. Scott Goodwin, Space Operations. Woohoo. He's here somewhere. Phil Milstead, Aeronautics Mission Directorate. And now I'd like to acknowledge our center CIOs, starting with James Williams, Ames. James? Ames has been a great host since we're having this in their hood. So I want to acknowledge a lot of the support that Ames gave to this. JPL, Jim Rinaldi. Always good for the research questions that you have, and as well as your wine selections for the night, right? Dryden, Ken Norland. Ken, are you here? There you are. And who'll be streaming himself live, and that's gonna, want to see how that happens. Larry Sweet, Johnson Space Center, CIO. That's a really good stream. You look really live. That's really good. Our smallest center, but our biggest center, really, Stennis Space Center, Dinah Cottrell. and the home of NASA Shared Services, NASA Shared Service Center, Bruce O'Dell. Hopefully they can see you, because I can see you, and I hope the world sees you. Jonathan Pettis, Marshall Space Flight Center. I know he's here, his people are here, I've seen him. Kennedy Space Center, Mike Bolger. Langley Research Center, Jeff Seaton. Goddard Space Flight Center, Adrian Gardner. Glenn Research Center, Randy Humphreys. And headquarters, Kelly Carter. I prayed that I didn't forget anybody. I got all the centers, didn't I? Okay. I want to acknowledge some executives in the Office of the CIO, our acting associate CIO for capital planning, Gene Sullivan. There he is back there. Our soon-to-be CTO for IT, Sashi Pillay. Our associate CIO for enterprise activities, Gary Cox. I know he's in the house, there he is. Our deputy CIO for IT security, Valerie Burks. And finally, I want to acknowledge the deputy CIO for NASA, Deborah Diaz. Did I get it all right, Deborah? Yes. Okay, all right. Okay, so I want to thank you again for coming to the summit. I encourage you to explore new things, to do some things that you haven't done before, or maybe learn about some things that are outside of your area of expertise, whether it's cloud computing, social media, open source collaboration, or anything like that. Be productive this week. I introduced you to some people who share your passion about IT. Reach out to them. And one more thing before I go, have fun this week. Thank you.
Well, I will say that if I don't get to the gym this week, going up and down the stairs and all around this facility will certainly give me plenty of exercise. So, good morning again, and you'll see me quite a bit during this week, but I have the privilege of introducing our keynote speaker this morning for the kickoff of the 2011 NASA IT Summit. And I can say that I believe in the power of networking because the opportunity to have Lynn Tilton as our speaker is really living proof. Several months ago, I reached out to Annalisa Baleres, the CEO of Women's Sphere, asking her to think about who she could recommend as a keynote speaker. With no hesitation, she encouraged me to contact Lynn and offered to introduce us via email. Well, within just a few days, that was done, and I was on the phone reaching out to the CEO of Patriarch Partners, not connecting first with Lynn's staff or her people, but the first voice I hear is Lynn herself. I quickly extended the invitation, and she graciously accepted, only saying that, "Are you sure that you want me?" As I am not an IT technologist, I'm more of an industrialist, and I really want to make sure that I have a great message for this audience. So let me continue to introduce today's keynote speaker. Lynn Tilton serves as the Chief Executive Officer and sole principal of Patriarch Partners, LLC, and its affiliated entities, Patriarch, Lynn's career spans 27 years and encompasses private equity, distressed asset management, financial engineering, loan sales and trading, investment banking, and senior management. In addition to her role at Patriarch, Lynn currently serves as the chairman and chief executive officer of MD Helicopters, Inc., a leading manufacturer of commercial and military aircraft. Lynn founded Patriarch Partners to develop innovative financial solutions and to manage and monetize the distressed portfolios of financial institutions. The platform later evolved toward fund investments focused primarily upon the acquisition of companies undergoing pervasive change and loan origination to the same companies. Under her leadership, Patriarch has positioned itself as a proactive partner to companies during periods of operational and industrial and economic transformation. Patriarch provides liquidity, time, and strategic support, frequently saving U.S. companies and U.S. jobs. Patriarch inspires management teams to rebuild using creative structural solutions and add-on investments in order to enhance companies' long-term values. Lynn earned a BA in American Studies from Yale University and an MBA in Finance from Columbia University. At this time, I would like to invite Lynn Tilton to the stage. Please help me to welcome our morning keynote speaker, Lynn Tilton.
I must say, I did say, are you sure that you want me? Because I do spend most of my time trying to encourage people to build things with their hands. That said, I think owning 75 companies and employing 120,000 people across 14 industries, I know that innovation and collaboration are the key to rebuilding America. And so I guess as I sit here, although I can't see anybody, but as I stand here, I realize that I am in good company and that I probably can shed some light for you. My daughter usually winds me up and takes me places and says, be smart. So I'll try not to disappoint. I'm only relieved that I didn't have to sing the national anthem, because the other thing she tells me is, Mama, you're near perfect, but you can't sing and you're a lousy judge of character. So even though I'm on this stage blinded by the light, although I do like to shed light, and I can't see into the eyes of the group, but maybe if I move around I can. I do know that I do have something that I can say to you that might add value. The bio is old, and I apologize that it doesn't shed a little more light on what we do today. But Patriarch Partners, somewhat ironically, is the largest female-owned business in the United States. We have 75 companies that work together as an international conglomerate, and we employ 120,000 people across 14 industries. That means we do everything from building helicopters and fire rescue vehicles and trucks, to owning technology companies and security, telephony firms, healthcare staffing, and anything that started out broken. Anything that started out with people feeling that it was better off left for dead. And then we come in, and through innovation and collaboration, we start walking that long journey towards rebuilding, what we say turning dust to diamonds. And I can tell you that there is nothing more powerful in this universe than people standing shoulder to shoulder and moving in the same direction with the same dream and the same vision. And how we connect those people, whether standing in person or through social networking or through technology, becomes the key. And yes, there's a certain amount that can be done when we're all standing together that is actually different, because there's a different vibration and resonance that creates that energy and power to move forward. But there's nothing to be lost on numbers. And only through technology and through what we create when we bring people together can we create that force that gets people thinking and moving in the same direction. One of the things that's most humbling about what I do each day is that even though we have created a platform that finances, that hires people, that creates strategy, that gives people the inspiration and the aspiration and the time to move forward to build something, that it always comes down to the people. It always comes down to the talent. And it's never one hero, it's a team. No one person can make the impossible possible. That takes a group of people that are willing to battle together through the obstacles and create the trajectory to rise from the abyss. And so when we talk about the value of innovation and technology, it's when we come together to bring that forward to things that we actually can touch and feel, whether it's the cash doesn't lie or whether it's the new products that are brought together. But there is no doubt that we need to bring the force of innovation into job creation and into value creation. And I think anyone who truly does that every day knows that innovation needs to be a culture in every company. People see it as a process. They fear it. They fear failure. We don't reward failure. But innovation and incremental innovation needs to be the air we breathe. It needs to be what we do every day. So that's where it comes in. That's where the grace, the elegance, and the truth come in. By when we come together with our multifaceted talents to weave the tapestry that becomes the new beginning. As I say, when you buy a broken company, rebuilding it is the confluence of rationalization and innovation. And rationalization is always painful. It's always cutting. It's what we see happening in companies, what we see happening in government. It's what we see happening as our nation as a whole. And all we do is see that as loss, as what we're giving up today. And it's usually human capital as well as things that people need. But if you can begin the dream of what it will become, if you can start the process of innovation at the same time so that you're walking parallel paths, then people start to feel their hearts beat fast. They start to see the end game. They see the journey and they start going together. And innovation is taking what was old or stagnant and start moving it to where the world is going. So even though there might be the feeling that technology or IT or innovation isn't fairly valued, it's all we think about when we start to rebuild a company is where are people spending their time? Where are people spending their money? Where is the youth looking at content and what's important to them? And that's all built on technology. But you cannot have a nation that's built on technology. You cannot have a nation that's purely a service economy. That faulty belief is why we stand today with 30 million Americans unemployed. That is why we try to look at, well, if corporate profits are higher, why is there no money? Why are there cutbacks in government? Why do we have a debt ceiling that we need to raise? Because we're only looking at a skewed economy when we look at that. We're only looking at the Fortune 100 that are building overseas. We're not looking at what's happening here in America, where much of our shadow economy has been destroyed. The reality is we cannot have a true nation and a strong economy until we put people back to work in this country, which means we need to be the maker of things. So how do we compete in being the maker of things, provided people agree that we actually really need to put people back to work in this country, and that to do that we must have an industrial economy. The way we do that is innovation. The way we do that is the technology that you're creating, and creating cultures at these companies that are incrementally innovating these old brand names and products to take it to what the customer wants and how it should be delivered to the customer today. And so in every meeting I sit through, with every person I speak to innovation, to creating cultures of innovation. So what does that mean? Well, if I can take an old pulp mill in Old Town, Maine that's been shuttered, where the town is built around a pulp mill and everyone has been laid off, and say, how can I be competitive in an international environment? How can I make sure that I can withstand the downturns of cycles? What can I do in incremental innovation to make certain that I can put 250 50-year-old men back to work in that town? Well, how about let's figure out what byproduct we can make of wood as we move through to make pulp for the basic paper market. And so many people were making cellulosic ethanol, but I feared ethanol, and with the many places it was being made and the government pricing. So I wanted to go to something that I knew that if I could create through a biorefinery, that I could actually use in my own businesses. So building armored vehicles and building helicopters, I knew that I could use the jet fuel that would be produced, and I wouldn't be wondering whether government subsidies or government pricing would be altered. And so I forced the view that we could get to butanol. People said it couldn't be. I said, show me why not. And so in an Old Town, Maine, in what was a shuttered pulp mill, we are going to be the first to turn wood into jet fuel. And so you have a business that has its basic business of making pulp that does withstand cycles and the ups and downs of pulp pricing in the industry. But when you can add on cash flow as a byproduct that actually has useful pricing in the market, all of a sudden you will avoid the shutdowns. So is it going to take the world by storm and be part of the Fortune 100? No, but is it making money and keeping 250 people working and putting a town back on the map? Absolutely. What allowed that to happen? Innovation. Incremental innovation from research and development and technology. When you look at Rand McNally, a map company from the early 1800s that when we purchased had let every technological advance pass it by, Google Maps, MapQuest, Garmin, navigation devices, and yet was still one of the top 10 brand names in this nation recognized. You can feel like it deserves to be destroyed because it's missed every opportunity, or you can say, how do I take that tattered tapestry? How do I take that cloth and unwind those threads, take the tattered throwaway, take the off-colored, grab onto those threads and start that long journey forward? And so in these cases, you've got to have a short-term plan, you have to have a mid-term plan, and you have to have a long-term plan. And so after bumbling many things, we got the right management team in and we sat down and we began to plan. And the short-term plan was first to live off the maps, the paper maps that we made, and do it right. And then quickly to get into technology. So we had a huge trucking business where we had long done a lot of work for the trucking industry in terms of their loads and their taxation. And so we immediately came out with a truck navigation device built with the trucking industry for the trucking industry. to get ourselves back touching technology. And then we realized that we could keep moving forward from there. Ultimately, I wanted to become a virtual reality travel company where people could use the internet to get to places that they could never afford to take their families and to shop in a virtual global mall. But I knew that would take time. And where did that idea come from? It came from one of our video game companies and from being at the E3 technology conference and actually seeing the virtual interaction of people. So I knew if it could get there with the gaming industry, that ultimately we'd be able to get there with the travel industry. But we had many steps to go. So to begin to get people to look at travel, because that was our business, we realized, let's start getting people going cross country. Let's do something for people who work in RVs. So then we came up with the first RV navigation device, just little incremental changes showing people that we were innovating and moving towards technology. And then we started to create content by having towns across America compete for the best places to visit across America. And so towns started sending in their content so people could actually begin to travel to those towns. And then we created the Best of a Road contest, which was, sponsored by Saab and USA Today, and where we took across the country for the best town. And this is how we're little by little getting to a place where we're bringing technology and innovation and content, where we are going as a nation, to a company that's got a tremendous history and a large employment base, and not liquidating, not eradicating the old for the new and thinking it no longer has any validity or viability. Why? Because technology and the change in the way we deliver content is making that possible. So when you speak to grace and elegance and truth, the truth is cold and hard, but it's also the first point on the path to hope and salvation. And so the truth is that we have allowed many of our companies with great history and great human capital to fall behind because we did not move forward with change, because we did not innovate quickly enough, because we held on to the old, because the natural tendency is if I did it before and it worked, why change? Why won't it continue to work? And the answer is because we live in a global, dynamic world that is technology-based, and it's moving so fast that if you stay the same, it is equivalent to stagnation and moving further and further away from the future and closer to death. And so what I try to explain to people, and which is relevant and evident in my companies, is if you do not change, you will die, because we are already standing on the precipice of liquidation, of irrelevance. So we have no choice but to change and to move forward with an immense sense of urgency. And with that urgency, we must create the force of nature that allows the trajectory to arise from the abyss. That means people standing shoulder to shoulder with the same vision, the same dream, and walking one foot in front of the other in the darkness every day until you see the light. And so when I sat here today, unprepared for the audience I would face, and just started to listen to where I fit in, when you think about space exploration, when you think about innovation, it's all about dreaming the dream. It all starts with the dream, with the vision and the ability to believe in that dream. Everything great that we have accomplished in this nation and in this world always started with something that wasn't easy to think of, that wasn't what everyone was doing, but it were people who were willing to fight the obstacles, to see the vision, to dream the dream, and to make it a reality. That is what I do every day. I live with one foot grounded in the reality and the truth of my existence, which is most often cold and hard, managing chaos and crisis in companies that are broken with people who are distressed and distraught, and trying to give them the vision and the inspiration to take that step out of their reality into the dream. And that is how we begin to move forward. So when you think that technology and innovation are underappreciated, then you're not standing with the right people who are so intertwined and dependent upon that to make the dream possible for people and for companies that have been left behind. We so easily toss away the old, thinking that everything must be the new, that the newest creation is where everyone needs to go. And what you do each day is to take that fairy dust and that magic on the old to show that we can bring it energy, revive it, give it the strength to incrementally move towards the future. Because when we throw out the old, we throw out human working capital, we throw out technology of the past that can be changed, we throw out that tribal knowledge that has built the foundation of America. And I struggle to understand why others don't see that with time and investment and with innovation, we can take so much that was what were the building blocks and the founding principles of America and bring it forward and keep people working in this country. So the cuts you see are coming because we've lost $12 trillion of household wealth over the last 5 years. In the end, we think we've come back. We think there's been a recovery because our banking system is much more sound and Wall Street has bounced back. But we don't think about the people that we've left behind. And what I am saying is that with technology and innovation and all the fairy dust that you create each day, we can get people to think in a different direction of basically reviving the old and basically taking all that was invested and bringing it to the future. You don't have to be one or two in the world to make a difference. You need to be profitable and have people employed to have an economy and to rebuild the strength of America. With that, people will get away from the feeling of being, hopeless and distraught, because in the end, we need inspiration. And inspiration comes from the ability to see the light in the darkness, from the ability to dream the dream and to walk that path with great people, knowing that no matter how dark it is, that in the end, you're going to see the light. And so, yes, I'm an industrialist, but I'm an industrialist who knows that without innovation, without technology, and taking that base, that foundation of America, and moving it forward into the future, we're going to give up so much of the foundation of America. And then what we do with innovation, if we have nothing to apply it to take people forward, leaves us with only a cup half full. And so in the end, what we need today is the ability to collectively dream the dream, to be inspired. And some of that comes with caring about each other. And I can't help but get to that point, because I know that even I, who am this ultimate idealist, who sign everything, sending you light, love, and laughter, and getting people to try to live the fairy tale, have felt very beaten down as of late, because it feels that as a nation, we just spend our time criticizing. All we do is battle as the outside world sort of dumps on us. I mean, China blames this global economic downturn on us and would like to exchange our currency. Russia's blaming us. The European banks are partly caused by the American economy. And yet, instead of standing together as Americans and say what? You know, as we have spread across into this global economy and spent our dollars in China as you've subsidized raw materials and fought wars in other countries to try to save your people and build democracy, you think we are the cause? What would happen if we in America decided maybe we stand together? Maybe we are patriotic and passionate about our country. And what would happen if we spent our dollars in America? What happens if we would put some sort of industrial policy in place where if you wanted to make it in America, if you wanted to buy it in America, you had to make it in America. Oh, that's protectionism. Well, what's China's subsidy of raw materials? What's Brazil? And if you want to sell it here, you have to make it here. When do we come together as Americans and say, how dare you? How dare you blame what's going on us? When do we come to stand together in the face of a leadership that says, we are the greatest country in the world with the greatest founding principles, the greatest laws for business, and the greatest human capital? And if we stand together as that great force of nature, nothing but nothing can stand in our way. But the hopelessness you feel, the absence of appreciation you feel is prevalent and it's pervasive. And what it's making people want to do is think about me. If things are this bad, how do I protect myself? If things are this bad, how do I get what's mine? If he steals, why do I be a better person? And in the end, the only thing that changes things is if we all look inside ourselves and try to be better people. And if we wake up each day and our first thought is not to ourselves, but to someone else. And if we stand together as Americans who think about America and about this great country, this could all turn on a dime. And I heard in the initial addresses this feeling of underappreciation, this feeling of why do they not see the grace, the elegance, and the truth that we provide? It's not just here, it's everywhere. It's in every industry, it's in every company. It's in our nation at large. It's the great deception that keeps us back. And I'm telling you, we just need to turn it by finding a place of appreciation for ourselves and for each other, for understanding that what we do does bring a grace and elegance to the world, to knowing that wherever we are, it's not where we need to be. It's one foot in front of the other in the darkness every day until you see that light. It's dreaming the dream, it's seeing that vision, but none of us can do it alone. But we sure as hell can do it together. And what you do each day is bring people together. Make it okay to come together in vision and in thought. So let's start using the best we have to touch as many people as we can, to get them to walk towards the light, to see the vision, to dream the dream. Let's leave the grounded and start walking back into space together in the dream of rebuilding our nation. Thank you. you want me to answer any questions?
Lynn is open to answering
Any questions? You know, I don't know, I have no idea what the time was. I don't know if I used my time, but if anyone has any questions, I'm happy to answer. Yes, you who I barely see, raising your hand. Don't turn around. There you go. Okay. Well, first of all, I do have a $2 billion automotive platform, so I spend a lot of time looking into the automotive industry. But let's remember that the automotive industry in this country in 2009 nearly went under, that people really believed that we would no longer need to make cars or parts in this country. Had the government not stepped in to provide, the resources that we needed to rebuild the auto industry, I'm not sure we would be making cars in America today. So this is the purpose and the point, is that we do not need to take broken and idle assets and toss them away. What we need to do is rationalize and innovate. And what the automotive industry had done was be arrogant, spend, lack the innovation. As long as it could keep borrowing, it could keep building at a loss. And then the truth, cold and hard, hit them right in the face. And what they did was they rationalized, and then they began in this force of propensity to innovate, and innovate. It also helps that it's it's harder to ship cars overseas. But I will tell you that our platform even is in 19 countries and has 33 facilities, that people are building cars where they sell the cars. So there's a bit of an advantage with some smaller items. But the reality shows you that we didn't need to toss our automotive industry aside, that it was broken, and it had caused a lot of the pain on itself, but that we could rebuild it, and we did. And that put a lot of people back to work, but people don't really talk about that we lost about 40% of our supply base over the last few years, and that the unemployment rate in Detroit still hovers around 30%. But if you think of what would have been had we not sort of stepped back and gotten involved and allowed these industries and these companies to stay here, it would have been a deadly disaster, because we already are the populace of the permanently unemployed, because we've allowed so much of our manufacturing to disappear with the thought it could be replaced by something else. And that was a flawed thought, because it has not. But that's innovation in an industry, knowing that it wouldn't live without it. Any other questions where someone might like to shout?
Is this mic on?
Because I didn't do that newfangled approach of sort of getting in, because as you can see, yes?
So what importance do you place on education, either vocational or college, in innovation and in the future of our economy?
I think education, I think you hit on it right on the head. I think education and training is absolutely essential to the rebuilding of our economy. But when you said vocation, you hit on something important. We decided that blue-collar work was a taint upon America. Somewhere we decided that everybody should be in IT and technology, and that we didn't need that part of our country, instead of the marriage between that would create greatness. And so we stopped. We stopped training people in vocational schools and instead sent them to junior colleges where they were bored and they learned little and they're unemployed. So if we can first step back and face the truth that maybe that decision was the wrong decision, that maybe there are people who truly express their vision and their talent through making things with their hands, and send them back to be, AP mechanics and engineers and other types of plumbers, electricians. I mean, we've taken that dignity away from people, and we need to give that back. Because just like you don't want a homogeneous culture of people, you don't want a homogeneous culture of vocation either. It is the marriage of manufacturing and innovation that actually creates a robust economy. One more question. Yes.
Lynn, I wanted to thank you for your outstanding presentation today. Also, it seems to me that what we need to do is take your paradigm for domestic sector investment and apply it to a U.S. technology policy. How can you persuade the current president, and I'm sure he would embrace it if you did, to create a national technology policy that use the innovative concepts that you've articulated and applied them to some of the distressed communities around the country like Flint, Michigan, places like that?
I wish that my views and what I embrace would be embraced by our president, but I haven't found that to be the case. I think the issue is when I listen to a lot of the administration on jobs, they think the jobs of the past are jobs that we do not want in this country anymore. They think we need to educate people for the future jobs of this country, and that what has been shipped overseas is not anything we would want in this country. And if you start from that base, you're talking 20 to 30 years out of trying to create the new jobs of America. You're not talking about the 35 to 55-year-old population that hasn't worked in the last few years. And I think anytime you sort of go and you separate into sort of two classes, whether it's Wall Street and Main Street, the rich and the middle class, or technology and manufacturing, and you separate, it's why you end up with this schism where everyone's falling into the middle. And I think even when you look at yourselves and you think that you're not embraced for what you do because people can't quantify and there's not value add, it's as if we would start walking across the aisles and matching up manufacturing with technology and the old with the innovation, that all of that begins to come together and to rise. So I think we need, look, the way to fix this country is actually through policy. I mean, we keep saying we don't want big government, we want small government. I want smart government, okay? And so I don't want to continue to add to our national debt by spending and pushing things into a big black hole that will never come back. I want to start building value. And that means that with policy, albeit unpopular, you can start marrying the two sides of the equation that have been segregated and have caused sort of this desperation that we feel as Americans today. We need both. We need Republicans and Democrats to walk across the aisle. We need the wealthy and the worker. We need government and business. We need to begin to hold hands together and understand that why we have this great schism in America and in business today is because everybody's taking opposite sides. All of this weaves together. We have it all right here, but we need to come together, and that starts with leadership, okay? It starts with leadership, and it starts with inspiration, and it starts with aspiration, which is everything you know about. We would have none of what we have today if it didn't start with the dream of making the impossible possible. So I know that this can all be fixed, but we need someone to make us believe it, to give us the boundaries, and to set us straight so that we can start adding value. And I'm telling you, everything you do is what I dream about every day to bring to what I call the sort of heavy lifting of building things. I can't move into the future without what you're creating here. And you need to know, to feel the value of what you do, you need to go back to the old and bring them forward to the future you're creating. But I wish I were the influence. But frankly, many people don't believe that what I've done that has saved 250,000 jobs actually is relevant. And that's the sadness. But that's why I'm here talking to you, because the more of us who decide that we can do it, we'll begin to do it. You just got to believe.
So Lynn, on behalf of a very grateful IT Summit community, we'd like to extend appreciation for coming today and being part of our kickoff for the NASA IT Summit.
Well, thank you for having me. It's been an honor, and I hope the one thing you'll take along with it is just dream the dream, and together, think about each other, work together, let's create it. Thank you.
So this concludes the keynote session this morning. We have morning refreshments out in the lobby. So at this time, we would like to adjourn this session. If you'll please move to the lobby so we can reconfigure this room very shortly. And thank you and have a great morning and afternoon.